Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of May 23rd, 2024, including a new Activision team has been formed and is set to create all new original games. Reports now suggest that Call of Duty will indeed come to Game Pass, but at what cost? Many, including myself, believe Microsoft is actively hurting Xbox as a brand, so let's discuss this growing notion and much more. On this day in Xbox history, in the year 2006, 18 years ago, Rockstar Games Presents Table Tennis was released on the Xbox 360. I had never played this game, but I do remember people speaking fondly of it. I don't know how a table tennis game can be... Well, I mean, that's not fair. I mean, after all, I'm the guy who bought a fucking Monster Truck game, and I buy Hot Wheels games, and for Christ's sake, back in the 360 days, I had paintball games. I mean... Who am I to sit here and judge people for wanting to maybe play a table tennis game? And hey, even though it's a far cry from the likes of GTA and Red Dead, Rockstar haven't proven us wrong before. So if they want to make a table tennis game, let them make a damn table tennis game. So 18 years old, Rockstar table tennis. People probably sit around and wonder all the time, when will we ever get table tennis 2? What about coffee table tennis? What about picnic table tennis? I'm just thinking, what about office desk tennis? I don't know. There's so many types of tennis you can play. Why limit it just to the generic table, as it were? When whatever, sky's the limit, guys. GTA 6 isn't the only game out there worth making. Anyway, guys, welcome to Xbox On. Mike Clark writes in and says, Xbox On, still the best Xbox podcast on the web. A lot to take in, so I decided just to be content and let Xbox do their Xbox things. The good news, I picked up a monitor for my PC and a new Game Sir controller. What? Bought Scarlet Nexus, and I'm really enjoying it. Well, hey, Mike Clark, normally you just say some kind of weird comment about it being a good podcast, even though, let's be honest, thank you. Love to have you here. Good week to you. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Thursday to you. I'm glad you're liking Scarlet Nexus. That game fucking kicks ass. I really love that game, and I still listen to some tracks from that game's soundtrack pretty often. In fact, yeah, there's some really good music in that game. Great art style, fun story, great gameplay. Shout out to Scarlet Nexus, and shout out to you, Mike Clark. Hope you're having a great week. Welcome all to Xbox On. We have a very rare, but maybe not unheard of, instance where we're going to have a second intro comment this week. That's right, Mike Clark, I know you normally get the honors of opening the show with your comment, and then Headhunting Halo always closes the show with his comment, but this week, Mike Clark, if you'll be so kind, I need you to share the stage, because we got a little someone here that's got to get the spotlight. Mark Shorthouse writes in and says, question mark, this isn't even a word, question mark, why even care about Xbox? With no games, a day now, all games coming to PlayStation. It's worse-minded, fanboys. So, Mark Shorthouse, thank you for being here. Learn how to write English, and then we'll try again next time. But have a great week. God bless you. Your profile picture's Elden Ring, so you're going to need all the help you can get. All right, guys, welcome to Xbox On, episode 260? Wow, 260. The same age my grandmother was when she found out that she had hemorrhoids. It's great to be here with you all because, good news, Xbox didn't shut anyone down this week. Weird news, Xbox formed a new studio after just shutting down a few studios and citing that they needed more resources to focus on the teams they already had. So that's weird. But perhaps most important as of this very moment, as it pertains to you, the player, the consumer, the fan of Xbox, Senua Saga, Hellblade 2, it's out now, baby. Let's do it. Notable game releases of the week. It's been a long time coming. This one is so important to me, and I think to many, just because this is the game that was announced alongside the Xbox Series X reveal. It is the game that I think most people have just default associated with the current generation of Xbox, aside from, Halo Infinite, which has been out for years now, so maybe that's not the game we're thinking of. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe something like Perfect Dark, because everyone's curious about what the initiative is going to be as a team, what that game might be, although I think all interest in that game is pretty much dead at this point. So, I mean, really, Hellblade 2 is like the de facto, this is the showcase game. This is the game that's going to show us all what the Xbox Series X is capable of, why this console exists. I don't know necessarily want to say the killer app, but it's the poster child for the Series X, right? And oh boy, judging on people's reviews, isn't that just so poetic? A game that looks amazing on the outside, seems so promising, and then ends up being just kind of something we've seen before at the end of the day, and not really lighting the world on fire, as it were. Although I don't mean that as a slight against either the Xbox Series console or against Hellblade or Ninja Theory, the developer, because it does seem like the consensus is Hellblade 2 is a pretty good game, great game even. Right now I think it's sitting at an 81 on Metacritic. Let's see. Yeah, 81 on Metacritic. User scores are a little more mixed at 77%, 70%, 7.0. So, I mean, who gives a shit? User reviews don't really matter for shit, because it's either all review bombed or all upvoted to oblivion based on what the internet tells you to think. Although a 7, I guess, does kind of indicate maybe a bit more of a nuanced take, because you normally get really high scores or really low scores. Kind of getting something in the upper mid range is a little unheard of these days. So maybe we should go off of that. But it seems like the general consensus with this game is that, hey, this is one of the most breathtaking looking games I've ever played in my entire life. The sound design is incredible. Basically, all the things that Hellblade or that Ninja Theory have been jerking themselves off and patting themselves on the back for the past 5 years have paid off. They have made an absolutely stunning looking top of the line game. They have made one of the most interesting games as far as its binaural audio work and features set and capabilities, whatever. But it does seem to be that the number one criticism of the game, aside from the fact that it only takes about 5 to 6 hours to complete, seems to be the number one complaint being, hey, mechanically the game's a little thin. It really doesn't grow from what the first game was. It's pretty straightforward. The puzzles are really easy. The combat's really basic and almost non-existent. And the game's much more about the narrative, the walking, the talking, the experiencing of the events, and less about action, puzzle solving, combat, and things like that. So it is a little more experience focused, a little less gameplay focused, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I am a huge fan of the walking sim type game, your Gone Home, your Firewatch, those kinds of games. So I'm not opposed to that. It's just that I think everyone was really expecting that, now being part of Team Xbox and having Xbox money and having extra time to really flesh out and fully develop a Hellblade 2 to your heart's content. I think a lot of people were expecting them to take that Ninja Theory kind of core DNA of like awesome third-person action games, along with the high visual fidelity and emotional storytelling of Hellblade 1, and meld the two together to be some best of both worlds type experience. What in actuality it looks like, judging off of the opinions of others in the reviews and such, seems like it's just not. It's just really more a direct sequel to the second one that kind of retreads familiar ground, does basically the same hat tricks as the first game. And if that's the case, I mean, I haven't played it yet. I definitely will play this game. It kind of affirms what I've been saying about this game all along, which is, hey, Hellblade 1 was pretty good, didn't need a sequel. So, unfortunately, it looks like that's the case. But, again, I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to render a verdict based on what I've been told. I am going to play the game myself. In fact, I actually planned on playing it last night. I had it downloaded. I had it pre-downloaded, ready to go. And then I just got really distracted by a different game I've been playing this week. So, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, I don't want to push myself. So I'm like, you know what? I'll wait till it's the weekend. I got some free time on my hands. I can sit down and really dive in, put on the headphones, enjoy it the way it's meant to be enjoyed. But I am looking forward to playing this game, especially knowing that it only takes 5 to 6 hours to beat. To me, that sounds like a fucking treat, because I don't think Hellblade 1 was necessarily a game that needed a sequel. So I'd rather it just be some kind of short, sweet experience and not some long, drawn-out, forced 20-hour, kind of modern video game experience. So 5-6 hours for something that is more narrative experience focused, less gameplay focused, that sounds great to me. So I'm excited about it, and the game does look absolutely phenomenal from a presentation standpoint. So looking forward to playing that this week. Obviously, a lot of Xbox people are very keyed in on this game because it is the big first-party game, the first big first-party game to come out in quite some time. And so there's a lot of reason to pay attention, to be excited, and all these things. Not to mention, the word is Xbox basically just went ahead and greenlit their next game, which isn't really all that much news. You would assume that their next game was greenlit if their current game came out the gate. But, the exciting thing is, what will that game be? Hopefully not another Hellblade game. Hopefully either a brand new IP or maybe something, something a little more gameplay focused. It'd just be nice. But at the same time, whatever. I want them to be able to do their thing. We know they're also working on that Project Mara thing that we haven't heard about in a long time. So who knows? Maybe that's the next thing we hear about from them. But that's Hellblade 2. It's not the only notable game coming out this week because X-Defiant is finally here. Yes, that's right. Maybe just as surprising as Hellblade 2 finally releasing after being announced alongside the Xbox Series X in December 2019. X-Defiant, the Ubisoft free-to-play multiplayer shooting Call of Duty competitor, is finally out after years of various closed betas and public betas and testing sessions and fake release dates and pulled back release dates and changed release dates and all of the things that have gone on over the time. I feel like it's been 2.5, 3 years since the game was supposed to come out, and maybe 4 years since we heard about the game. So it's very nice to finally have this game out in the wild. Another game I have downloaded, ready to go. Very excited about this game because I liked a lot of the betas I played of this game quite a bit, and I will definitely be giving this game a little attention over the summer for sure. However, again, we'll get to it when we get to what I've been playing. I've just been very distracted by the game I have been playing lately, so I didn't get into this last night at all, but I will for sure be getting into it soon. And then the last game of notable, releasing this week of note, I want to just put out there, System Shock. This is the System Shock remake that came to PC, I want to say last year, around this time last year. But now it's available on Xbox One and Series consoles. So if you want to get a taste of the old System Shock games, maybe relive the glory or experience them for the first time, it's a great way to jump in as Xbox players. It's available on Series X. What do you want? So that's it for the notable game releases of the week. You guys, let's get into our mildly amusing stories, updates, things like that. For the first time in a long time, we got updates. We got 2 updates, actually. So I want to get into these, especially because the first one warms my heart. From VGC, Arcane Austin will release one final update for Redfall, after all. And this will add offline play. The official Redfall Twitter account posted the game's final patch, Game Update 4, and said it will include a revamped neighborhood and nest system, single-player pausing, offline mode, and more. There's been suggestions that the game wouldn't be released after Microsoft recently, or that the update wouldn't be released after Microsoft planned to shut down the studio, but a release date for the game's final update has been, or the update has been confirmed, although a release date has not been provided as of yet. So this is really comforting at the very least to get, because you don't want this game to be lost to history when inevitably one day the servers go offline and then the game becomes unplayable. So by putting in that offline mode and the ability to pause it and all that stuff, you're preserving this game for essentially forever, or presumably for, a long ass time that we can't foresee going away. So this is really good news just for the history and the preservation of games. I liked Redfall. I'm one of those people that actually did have a good time with this game, as I've said every time this game's come up. Was it perfect? No. Was it definitely a little bit of a disappointment compared to what we thought we were getting? Absolutely. But was the game a pretty good time and a really great aesthetic, or as the kids would say, was this game a vibe? To that, I say, yeah, it fucking is. It feels like being in a cozy Halloween movie, and it was a lot of fun to play around in that world, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So really excited to see that that at the very least we're getting this. It's really unfortunate, of course, that Arcane Austin is no more and that we won't get to see them have their redemption arc, but it is very comforting to know that this game isn't going to be lost to history just because it didn't do well and it was an online only game. So that's very much a big relief. Now, update 2 is another big relief, where Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick has claimed that, despite stories that we even discussed on this podcast last week, the publisher has not made a confirmed announcement that Private Division Studios' Roll7 and Intercept Games have been shut down, despite, the news that was the plan. Last month, the publisher said that they do plan to lay off about 5% of the workforce, which is about 600 people, as part of cost-cutting measures, but they didn't name the projects or the teams that would be affected. This is followed by Bloomberg reporting, which claimed that They'd seen documentation revealing two of the casualties being of the restructuring were Roll7, the London-based developer behind the Ollie Ollie and Roller Dome games, as well as Seattle-based Intercept Games, which developed Kerbal Space Program 2. However, in a new interview with IGN, Zelnick appeared to suggest that neither studio had been closed, but he didn't clarify the actual status of the studio. So they're not totally out of the woods here, but maybe, just maybe, these teams live on in some way to fight another day. He says, quote, "We didn't shutter those studios, to be clear, and we are always looking at our release schedule across all of our studios to make sure that it makes sense. So we are being very judicious because we're in the middle of a cost reduction program. We've already concluded that we are now fully rolling out. We've announced that we're saving $165 million in existing and future costs, but we haven't shuttered anything." When they asked about if he was denying reports about closing the studios, he says, "Well, what we said is that in the 8K filing, what we put out, we talked about the cost reduction plan being approximately 5% of our headcount worldwide, but we did not give a label-by-label breakdown of what that looks like. When asked again if the studio still exists, IGN's reporter was told by PR, we have not provided any additional color behind what was said." So it's not saying for sure these teams live to see another day, but maybe at the very least, these teams get to walk away, have the opportunity to buy their IP back, and go independent or something, as opposed to just being shut down, and then Take-Two keeps the IP and these games get lost, forever because a big corporation owns it and these small developers have no power or authority over the matter. So that would be, quite a relief. Not as much a relief as knowing Redfall is going to get that offline update, just because that has been confirmed and this has not been confirmed, but it is good to have these two updates that do provide some levity in an otherwise really grim time in the game space. So very happy to see that. Now, we do have a couple of mildly amusing stories, three of which I want to jump into here. The first one has me kind of just really excited and giddy and happy, just because, not because I'm like, oh, hype, new games are coming out or whatever, or like I'm getting sucked into the marketing cycle, but just because the way this marketing cycle is going is just very, I don't know, it just feels very reminiscent. So a teaser website for the next Call of Duty game has been uncovered. This year's Call of Duty is reportedly a new Black Ops game set in the 1990s Gulf War era, developed by Treyarch, the gods of Call of Duty. The teaser website, truthlies.com/1, includes a video seemingly referencing the Black Ops game's 2020's Cold War, which includes multiple endings in which players could choose to tell the truth or lie about the location of the antagonist, Perseus. The Xbox Game Showcase, the first to include games across the Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios portfolio, will be live streamed on June 9th. Following that live stream, it's expected that this year's Call of Duty game will be fully unveiled in some kind of Call of Duty live event shortly after the stream. So, obviously, we're going to get the full lid blown off this game and see what it's all about on June 9th. But between now and then, in the next couple of weeks, the next, 2.5 weeks, we get to play the teases game, the leaks game, the speculation game, and that can be fun. And the Call of Duty community is really usually quite a lot of fun about this stuff with all the leaks and the rumors and the way that Activision and its various teams kind of put little teasers and things like that within Warzone in the games, trying to allude to what's next. And so that's always a lot of fun. But this year it's extra fun because not only is Treyarch the best developer at Call of Duty, and not only was Black Ops Cold War the best Call of Duty in a long-ass time, but last year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 that slapped together DLC with a $70 price tag was such an underwhelming mess, in my opinion, that I haven't been able to play it for months because I have no interest in it. So it is especially exciting that we're not only getting the next sequel to the Black Ops universe and Black Ops Cold War particularly, but we're going to get what is assumed to be a safer, more fun, more classic Call of Duty game, as opposed to whatever the hell we just got with Modern Warfare 3. So I'm very excited about all that. But the real reason I'm bringing this up is because I love the way they're going about this marketing campaign. Because again, usually I don't like I'm not trying to like pat companies on the back. Like, great marketing. I love the way you have spoken to my sensibilities and made me feel compelled to give you money in exchange for your product. Like, I'm not trying to cuck out and be an influencer for Activision here or nothing, but I just want to point this out because I love the way they're doing this, where it's like you click on the website truthlies.com, and when it loads, it says the truth lies, and it flashes across the screen, and then you get this TV monitor. It's like this CRT TV, and it just shows this little clip of these people like running through the woods with flashlights, and then they make it to they're like crawling through the woods and stuff, and then they scale up Mount Rushmore, and they put like this fucking tarp over the statues and put like truth lies and shit on it. It's like, it's whatever. It's a little goofy. It's a little campy, or if you want to say cringy, whatever. But it's cool because it's like this like guerrilla marketing thing they do, and then like you can change the channel on the TV, and then like you get different. Oh wow! I'm looking at it right now. They just added more clips, and you get like these different channels with different like news stations and different clips, like teasing stuff. Like this one's a news station. It says like monuments worldwide are being defaced and all whatever. They're teasing it. They got like this wolf logo, and it's like, you know, don't believe what you've been told, kind of whatever shit. And it's obviously teasing for what the story's going to be about and all that. But it's just, I feel like this is very early 2000s Xbox 360 era, when, you know, everything wasn't like, we have a press event, check out our Twitch stream to learn more about this or that. And things were a little bit more like, you know, like this, where like you just have like, oh, there's this random URL and it has this, and then there's a code in the back of this like booklet, and games just had like these more fun kind of little marketing gimmicks to get you excited about games. And I just feel like this is kind of in that spirit where it's fun, it's creative, it's got like that spy espionage kind of government secret Call of Duty Black Ops thing going on, which is so in line with the franchise. And I don't know, it's fun, it's exciting, and it just feels very much like an old school Call of Duty, harkening back to the heyday. And I like this a lot. I think it's cool. But anyway, that's really it. So we're starting to get the teases, and obviously this is a big deal for Xbox because this is going to be the first Call of Duty game that is really released as a, you know, in a world where Activision and its subsidiaries and everything are a proper part of the Xbox team, and this is presumably going to be the first Call of Duty game to launch into Game Pass. So there's a lot going on here where this means quite a bit for Xbox, and we'll get into that in a little bit because that is part of our main news topic. But for now, we'll just leave it at that. Continuing on with our last two stories of mild amusement, Microsoft next up. Microsoft has demonstrated how its Copilot AI may soon be able to help players with games in real time. VGC reports the company's AI service is currently available in preview mode on Windows PC in certain regions, but Microsoft is planning a new functionality for it in the future. The official Twitter account for Microsoft Copilot gave an example of this on Monday, showing how Copilot will soon be able to talk to players while they're playing Minecraft and give them advice on what to do. In one demonstration, the player opens Copilot and their Minecraft window, and the AI identifies the game that they're playing. The player asks the Copilot how to make a sword, and the AI asks them to open their inventory and analyzes the items they have in there, and then tells them what they still need and where to find it in order to create a sword. In other demonstrations, the players are being chased by zombies. Copilot recognizes the zombies, tells the players what they are, and gives them advice on how to escape. In theory, this means that Copilot could be used to study a player's circumstances in a certain game and help them out as if it was a real-time strategy guide or walkthrough. Better yet, they talk about being able to have walkthroughs and strategy guides and things like that for all types of games, and help you out with puzzle solving, more puzzle-based games, or with enemy optimization, like combat scenarios, and maybe like Souls-like games. And these are the kinds of ideas that get thrown around, and it's quite cool. It's quite novel and fun. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, how useful will this really be? How far will they really take this technology? Will it really mean anything to players? I don't know. It's cool technology. It's a cool concept, and I love the idea of it existing. But again, it's just one of those things where it's like, we get a lot of like little tech promises and things like that over time, and these kinds of things usually don't pan out to be a whole lot, but sometimes they do, and it'll be cool to see how this does play out. Maybe this kind of stuff will help, you know, more casual gamers or younger gamers who get a little more easily frustrated with difficulty or not knowing how a game works, help them kind of stay in the game more as we become or turn to more of a AI ubiquitous world where we all lean on tools like this more and more for help. It could be cool, could be helpful, could be a gimmick. I don't know. They showed this at their Copilot event they did on Monday, along with all their new Surface hardware and all these things like that. So I'll say this much. Your next generation of Xbox console, plain and simple, it's going to have an APU. It's going to be an AI-based console, just like their new Surface computers, just like everything Microsoft is working on. AI is going to be baked into the next generation of Xbox. There will be an AI chip on that motherboard, believe you me. So there's that to look forward to, or maybe not. Depends on how you feel about it. But lastly, I didn't know if I should include this last one because it may not end up being related to Xbox, but maybe it will. Gameplay footage of an unannounced Valve game has seemingly leaked. Images of the game, which are reportedly a 6v6 third-person shooter called Deadlock, emerged last week along first details of the game. According to well-informed Valve enthusiast Tyler McVicker, hundreds of people are currently playtesting this game in a closed alpha state, which is where the video online has originated from. This is meant to be Valve's next major competitive game, the next Counter-Strike, the next Dota, he said. It's a hero-based shooter, it's class-based, it's very personality-driven. This is Valve attempting to bring together all the communities under one umbrella. The leaked video shows a character traversing the map using a handrail system reminiscent of Bioshock Infinite's Skyline before running around and firing off their weapon. It then provides a look at the character selection screen, which shows 19 playable heroes. According to McVicker, the game has been in development since at least 2018, features tower defense mechanics, and has a fantasy setting mixed with steampunk. So I watched this video clip. I don't know if the character models are supposed to look the way they do with like floating heads not connected to torsos and bulky bodies and stuff. It looks funky, but the environments look very nice. The gunplay looks mostly like it's in some playable state. I don't know. I put this in here because maybe this ends up somehow being available as well on console. Valve hasn't put a game on console in a little while, but there was a time where they put Counter-Strike and Redbox and stuff like that on Xbox and PlayStation, and of course Left 4 Dead famously was heavily marketed and associated as an Xbox game. Where it was the only place it was available aside from PC, and there have been other examples over time. So again, I don't know that this is a game that they're planning on putting on console, but a third-person shooter multiplayer game would make a lot of sense, I think, on Xbox Series and PlayStation. So why wouldn't you want to grow that audience if you're trying to make a live service game? It only makes sense to have it in more places, but at the same time, it is Valve, and on the rare chance they choose to make a game, which is once in a blue moon, they don't really need the money or give a shit about meeting players where they're at. It's like everyone's on Steam, so go fucking play the game on PC via Steam or go fuck yourself, So I expect that it probably won't be on Xbox, but hey, maybe, just maybe. If you want to see the leaked gameplay, you can check that out online. It's not too hard to find. But yeah, maybe, just maybe, there's a new 6v6 third-person shooting Valve-developed game coming. And maybe, just maybe, it's coming to Xbox. So something to look forward to. You guys, that's it for all of our opening news stories. Let's get into the games I've been playing this week. Excited to talk about this one game I've been playing because I am very much loving it. But before we can talk about what I've been playing, I gotta tell you about what it is I've been eating, because you guys, I had my heart broken a little bit this week. So I don't know. I used to be somewhat of a Starbucks bitch. I would say when I was in high school, I was pretty basic about Starbucks. The basic girl with the tumblers, and they drive the Jeep, and they like Target, and they like Starbucks, and all the associations of like the basic, suburban white girls. I was one of those girls for sure growing up. I would say I'm very much, despite my love of punk rock and all the rest, I would say I very much was to some extent a basic bitch, and I was a huge Starbucks guy in those days. I have since really fallen off. I haven't really given a fuck about Starbucks in a long time. It's expensive. It's not the best, but it is good. I don't hate Starbucks. I just rather get my coffee anywhere else and save money and not deal with lines. And also, I feel like Starbucks' aesthetic has gone over the years from like cozy coffee shop to like industrial warehouse, and I don't enjoy that look. It's like if the Apple store was a coffee house, that's what Starbucks looks and feels like. So it's just they just kind of lost me as a customer over time. No bad blood, I just don't care. Well, in the past week or two, they've released a drink which has made me suddenly turn my attention to Starbucks for the first time in a very long time and go, now wait a minute, I see what we're doing here. Now, the only other time in, honestly, the past decade plus maybe that I've given a fuck about Starbucks is when they did, and even this was like 7 years ago at this point. Remember when they did that like vampire frappuccino thing? Or the zombie frappuccino, I think it was, with like the purple whipped cream that was like brains and like the matcha frappuccino thing. I don't know. That was fun. That was cute. I liked that they were doing those kinds of things. Mermaid frappuccino, all that stuff. Those were fun little summertime gimmicks. Well, they have a drink right now. It's not as gimmicky as that, but it is this new like berry summertime drink. They have a couple variants of it. You can get it as a lemonade. You can get it as just a fruit refresher thing. But they have one version of it that very much has my interest, which is this. It's coconut milk and then like blackberry, blueberry refresher. So it's like fruity, it's berry, it's blue. I love drinking and eating things that are blue, especially the kinds of blue that you shouldn't eat because it's just not a natural color. And I love coconut and tropical things. So I was very much excited for this drink. And then it has like these berry boba pearls. Not that real boba where it's like, where it's like chewy and gummy, but like that weird kind you find a lot of like, I don't know, you find a lot more often these days where it's like it's filled with like, it gushes with like juice in the middle. It's like the thin pearls, you put them in your mouth, they pop and they gush with like juice and flavor and all that. So it's like those kind of little boba ball pearls. And anyway, I was really looking forward to this. So I stopped by the Target right down the road from my house because they have a Starbucks in there. And they were sold out. So I was like, fuck. Okay, well, good news for me is right outside the shopping center near my house where the Target is, across the street from that, there's a standalone Target or a Starbucks. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go to that Starbucks. They're sold out of it. I'm like, okay, what the fuck? Next day I'm at work. My coworkers are like, hey, we're going to do a Starbucks run. Do you want anything? I've always historically been like, nah, I'm good. But for the first time, I'm like, you know what? They got this summer drink. I want to try it. If you see, can I get one? They check the app. Hey, it looks like they're sold out at this location. What the fuck? So I'm like, what's going on? I just want to try the blue drink at Starbucks. Lo and behold, later on that weekend, I'm in a remote part of Orlando I never go to because I have an eye doctor appointment. And I'm like, you know what? There's a Starbucks across the street. Might as well just see. Maybe they fucking have it. So I pull up my phone, check the app. Lo and behold, they have it in stock. I'm like, holy shit. They got the Summer Skies drink. They got the fucking coconut refreshing berry drink. So I mobile order it on the app, lock that shit in before it says sold out, and I go across the street to pick it up. And you know what? Drink sucks. Fucking sucks. The drink itself tastes like basically nothing. There's a faint coconut milk taste. The berry taste is virtually non-existent. And then you just get the boba pearls just blasting you with like a blackberry, blueberry flavor. I feel like maybe it would taste better if you broke all the little boba pearls and spread around the juice from those pearls in with the drink itself. Maybe it would taste better. But as it stands on its own, where you're supposed to get a couple boba pearls with each sip, get the drink all together, mix it all together, it's flavorless, it's dull, it's boring. And I was so disappointed because the drink is so pretty. It's just as pretty in person when you get it as it is in the advertisements. It's blue. It's like a cloudy, milky blue because of the coconut milk. It's got that Star Wars blue milk energy that, I love the Star Wars blue milk over at Disney World and Disneyland in the Star Wars land. They got you can drink the blue milk like the one from the Star Wars movies. And I love that drink. So I'm just hoping this is another one of those blue beverages I can really get into. Mountain Dew historically, whenever they make a blue drink, it's always quite good. Shout out to Mountain Dew Voltage. But unfortunately, Starbucks has let me down. They've had an opportunity for the first time in a long time to get my attention, and they fucking completely wasted it. Just total waste of my money, waste of my day, waste of my efforts. And Starbucks, while I don't hate you personally, I'm very disappointed with your performance as of this moment. So I must say, as a former pumpkin spice latte basic bitch loving motherfucker, I'm going to stick to Joffrey's. I'm going to stick to Caribou Coffee. I'm going to stick to Sam's Club knockoff coffee shop, donut coffee shop, whatever, Keurig K-Cups that I have in my pantry. I'm going to stick to that because it's cheaper, it's tastier, it's easier, and frankly, Starbucks, you don't deserve my money. You haven't earned my respect at this moment. So that's it for what I've been eating. You guys, time to get into what I've been playing. Jesse, have you been playing Senua Saga, Hellblade 2? Have you been playing another 6 hours of this woman just going on and on, talking to the voices in her head about the boyfriend and the guy and the death and I'll be honest with you guys, this is maybe just me showing my stupidity and ignorance, or I don't know. I played the first Hellblade, and I remember walking away going, that was a cool experience, very unique game. I liked that. I don't think I fully know what the game was about, and now knowing that I'm going to get into a second Hellblade game, I'm probably in the same spot where I'm just not going to really know what's going on. Maybe I'm just too fucking stupid to understand what they're trying to say at this game. But I'm fully aware that I'm probably going to walk into this game not understanding a fucking thing that's going on. But I am looking forward to it. Again, visually, the game looks stunning. That is what I'm jumping into probably Thursday night. And weirdly enough, I played a little bit of Dota 2 this weekend not because my own will, but because I was playing with people. And I just thought I'd mention that because we were just talking about Valve, and I don't play PC games, but for the first time in my life, I played Dota 2. Surprise, surprise, I suck at it, and I don't care for it. But it exists, and I'm a little familiar with that game now. But that's not what I've been playing this week. That's not really what I'm here to talk to you about. What I'm here to talk to you about is a game called Sker Ritual. Stupid name, I know. Please don't judge this game by its name. It's a terrible name, but the game is so fucking good. Sker Ritual is the second game in the Sker series. The first one was called Made of Sker. Yeah, that's it. Wales Interactive. So this is a small team from Wales, UK-based team from Wales, and they made this walking sim horror, survival horror type game called Made of Sker, and they've made some mobile games back in the past. They've only been around a decade or so. They're not a super big or super well-known team, but they made this game called Made of Sker a few years ago. I think it was on Game Pass at one point. I definitely recognize the key art for it, but I can't be for sure. But anyway, a few weeks ago, they released a new game in that series called Sker Ritual, and I don't know how much it does or doesn't tie into the story of the first game, but what this game essentially is Call of Duty Zombies. It is like unabashedly just Call of Duty Zombies. It feels like, what if we made a game that is the spirit of and feels like all the best Call of Duty Zombies from the old days? I'm talking Call of Duty World at War, Black Ops 1 and 2 and 3, but with a lot of the modern quality of life improvements and trappings that made later Zombies games just more accessible to modern audiences. So a lot of quality of life features and benefits that you get in like Black Ops 4 and Black Ops Cold War, and hell, even some of the other Call of Duty games that have zombies that aren't from Treyarch. And I was really weird. I was very cautiously optimistic about this game because I was like, all right, I know it's from a small indie team. Call of Duty, you know, for love it or hate it, the one thing you can't say bad about it is that the game doesn't feel great, because the game feels and controls better than pretty much any FPS out there. And so I was worried that this small indie team wouldn't be able to make a game like Call of Duty Zombies that feels as good to play. And so I originally downloaded a demo of it on the PC because I figured the controls on console are going to feel like shit. But then I downloaded the trial on Xbox, and I was like, you know what? The control, I mean, it doesn't feel as good as Call of Duty. It definitely feels like a smaller indie team made it compared to Call of Duty. But it feels pretty damn good to play. Like the aiming, the controller, the snap-on and the aim assist and everything feels pretty well tuned. Like, you know, 20 minutes in and I'm playing this game like a pro. You know, I don't even miss the more, I don't know how you want to say, the more prestigious way that like a overly budgeted, highly worked on, you know, storied game like Call of Duty feels compared to this small indie title. But oh my god, this game is so much fun, feels great for what it is. $25. So you get 4 maps, right? So it's like 4 Call of Duty Zombies maps, but it's a little different in that in this game, each map has story. Like, it progresses. You play from map 1 through 4, and you progress through the story. The story is light, so then you don't have to pay too much attention to it. But like how the Call of Duty Zombies games have these like Easter eggs and these story modes and these quests that you can do, this game has that as well. But the difference is, in Call of Duty Zombies, 95% of the people who play zombies just run around, shoot stuff, try to survive as many waves as they can, and that's the game for them. Only the most hardcore Zombies fans actually take the time to figure out all the secrets and the Easter eggs and the backstory and how to do the special quests and fight the boss and all of that stuff. That's really more for the hardcore nerdy people. What this game does that's so cool is it takes that kind of quest line, more like story-driven shit, and makes it part of the main attraction of the game. So like, it has like objective markers and like audio cues, and it will tell you, it'll be like, collect this item, find this item, escort this creature to this area, you know, destroy this, stand in the circle and kill 100 enemies. And like, it kind of like guides you around the world and tells you what to do. So you're playing that round-based classic Call of Duty Zombies gameplay, but with more of a linear, guided, story-driven, objective-driven kind of gameplay experience. And the way they marry those two things together actually feels so fucking great. It's really, really fun to play. I played with Cronky. We played the first 3. We beat the first 3 of 4 levels, but there's also secret Easter eggs you can do after you beat those levels, which we haven't done yet. And I've gone back since and played a bunch of the first level, just trying to get various achievements and learn the game a little bit better and learn the ropes and do all these things. And I gotta be honest, I've probably pumped like 7 or 8 hours in this game just in the past couple of days, just in that kind of classic, joyful, just stupid, dumb brain, childlike way where you find a game that is pure fun to play, and you just have that dumb smile on your face, and you just forget about the world around you, turn off your adult responsibilities and your brain and everything, and just play this game. Just knock out and play this game. And I gotta give this game praise, because this is the most, you know, there's many ways you can enjoy a game. You could play a game like Hellblade, where maybe the gameplay isn't the most groundbreaking and maybe it's not the most mechanically savvy game you've ever played, but the quality of that narrative experience and that high presentation value is the selling point that's going to make people stop and pay attention and care about what this game has to offer. You could play a game like The Last of Us, which has solid gameplay mechanic, but not the best gameplay mechanics, and then has amazing storytelling and world building and stuff, and that's kind of the through line, right? But then there's games like, there's everything in between, of course, which is what the majority of games are. But then there's games like this where it's like, who gives a shit about the story? Who gives a shit about the presentation? Who gives a shit about the graphics? None of that stuff is important. None of that stuff is the best part of this game. But the gameplay loop, the thing that keeps you hooked and engaged into what this game is trying to do is so well executed on. You can tell this game was made by people who truly love and understand Call of Duty Zombies. And the experience of playing this game, how easy it is to just pick it up, understand what the objective is, and get sucked into let it get its hooks into you and just get sucked into this gameplay loop is just so infectiously fun. It's like it's like the difference between like trying to sit around and understand like complex orchestral music, where it's like, I know this is beautiful, I know this is art, I know this is something that's highly respected and appreciated. Let me sit here and try to understand what makes this music so special. Let me try to understand it on a scholarly and professional level. And you sit there and you try to like really appreciate that high-end music. But then there's like punk rock where it's like 3 power chords and it's just like, fuck the government, I hate my mom, that kind of shit, And you're like, goddamn, that's super catchy. Or like you listen to like Blink-182 and they're like, I fucked your dog, whatever. And then they just Tom DeLonge being a total dumbass. And you're like, all right, this song is so catchy. It's so fun. The energy is so high. It's so infectious to listen to this and just be in a good mood. It just puts you in that like, fuck yeah kind of energy. This game is like the video game equivalent of like punk rock and pop punk, where it's like, is it the most savvy thing in the world? No. Is it the most beautiful looking thing in the world? No. Is it very refined? No. But that's my favorite shit, man. I grew up on Warped Tour and X Games and shit. I'm a fucking early 2000s, late 90s kid. This is my shit. So that's kind of like the energy something like Call of Duty Zombies, or in this case Sker Ritual, provides, that just gets me every time, where it's just, what's the objective? Well, you get a shitty gun, you fight zombies, the wave ends. On the next wave, there's more zombies, and they're a little bit harder, and then you earn points, and then you get the next gun that's slightly better, and then you upgrade the gun, and then you get the health perk so you can stay alive longer, and then you run around, you unlock doors, and you try to run from the zombies, you try to get more powerful weapons, and you try to kill more zombies. It's like, okay, what's the end objective? It's like, survive as long as you fucking can, because it's fun to shoot zombies, it's fun to not die, and it's fun to get new, more powerful weapons and mow down hordes of zombies. It's like, that's it. It's not rocket science. It's not the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced, but it's so fucking fun. I love it. What's his name? The YouTuber, Nakey Jakey, the YouTuber, in his really excellent video about the Last of Us, he talks about like the trick behind video game design, good video game design being like this idea of like this like fun, stupid, kid-like green goo gobbledy monster shit that's like, just, it covers your brain and it makes you all stupid and childlike and dumb, and like that's what makes games fun, is like that like, it's like that fun junk food energy kind of shit where you're just like, ooh, what is this? I like this, I want to engage with this. And I'm doing a poor job of paraphrasing what he says in the video. You should watch it, it's a great video. But kind of, I think about that point he's trying to make when I think about why a game like Sker Ritual, despite its horrible graphics, its shitty name, its mediocre presentation, it's nothing to write home about storytelling, and why a game like this does it so much for me. It's because it's fucking awesome. It's got this cool, like, horror in the woods kind of aesthetic, and you just fight these zombies and you unlock these weapons, and for $25, I don't think you can have a better time. It's just stupid, that whatever he says in the video, that monster goo that just covers your brain and makes you feel like a stupid, dumb, delinquent child, and you just have a giddy old fun time, because this is what good gamers are all about. It's just fun, time wasting, engagement, and this game is chock full of it. So shout out to Sker Ritual. I really love this game so very much, and I gotta say, at this point in time, might be high praise, I don't know. We're not too far in the year, and not too many really super special, compelling games have come out so far this year, so maybe it's not that crazy to say, but aside from Wasteland 3, because Wasteland 3 is still definitely my favorite experience I've had this year, this is probably my second favorite game I've played in 2023. It's just, man, I've been loving Call of Duty Zombies since 2008 when World at War came out, and This game captures the best of it. It's not as like busy and bogged down with over-the-top shit like some of the later Black Ops games are. It feels a lot more simplistic and streamlined like Black Ops 1 and World at War were back in the day, but with a lot of modern quality of life improvements. And so, I don't know, this really speaks to the kid in me that grew up really loving, the old Call of Duty Zombies, and just feels like it's just such a great game. So honestly, it's a crying shame this didn't come out like September, because this is like the perfect Halloween game. But anyway, I won't go on for much longer. That's really it. That's what I've been playing this week. Sker Ritual. Should I be playing Hellblade 2? Do I have a little bit of a sense of obligation to play Senua Saga because I do this Xbox podcast, and we should probably talk about the new AAA Xbox first party game, whatever. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like you gotta play what's speaking to you. You know, it's like video games are all about fun. It's all entertainment. You should do the thing that is calling to you. And right now, surviving waves of zombie hordes as I mow them down with more and more powerful guns is what sounds fun to me. So Sker Ritual it is. Senua, we'll learn more about your saga in a couple of days. So that's it for what I've been playing. You guys, let's take a quick break, drink some water, think about our life decisions. Come back in a minute, and we will get into the main news of the week. All right, let's jump into our news this week, starting with the most confusing news coming out of Xbox in a while. Okay, just start with the read. From VGC, Xbox starting a new studio working on a new franchise. Activision has established a new internal development studio called Elsewhere Entertainment. Headquartered in Warsaw, Poland, it's been formed to create a brand new franchise for the Xbox-owned publisher best known for Call of Duty. Elsewhere's team consists of storytelling experts, quote-unquote, who previously plied their trade at Naughty Dog, CD Projekt Red, Bungie, and Ubisoft. In a blog post, Activision said, Elsewhere is, quote, exclusively focused on creating a new narrative-based and genre-defining AAA franchise. The team's underlying mission encourages everyone to explore and collaborate creatively, to create and craft a franchise with an enduring legacy that resonates far beyond games, it added. Elsewhere is opening its search for best-in-class talent across the industry and around the world to help create state-of-the-art and next-generation gaming experience. All right, let's just stop. Let's cut straight to the chase, right? Because I know the immediate response from everyone is like, you just shut down 4 teams. What the fuck are you doing starting a new team? Okay, I'm not trying to sound inhuman when I say this. Obviously, you guys know me. I've been ranting for the past 2 weeks on the podcast, being a total dick to Microsoft. Obviously, I'm very upset that they shut down Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks and all these other teams, and I'm sad about what's going on, and I don't approve of it. It's not what I would want to have happen, but let's try to understand the motivation behind these moves in relation to what we know Xbox needs, what we know Xbox's current vision is, and what we know based on what higher ups said regarding these studio closures and whatnot. So they're talking about how they need big games. They need big games that draw big crowds. They need games that pull lots of money. They need games with multiplayer components and are monetizable. They need games that are big draws for Game Pass. Obviously, you're not going to get that kind of game from Tango Gameworks, or at least historically we haven't. Tango Gameworks released 2 Evil Within games, Ghostwire Tokyo, and of course Hi-Fi Rush. And while I would say all 4 of those games are cool, and some of those games are better than others, and none of those games are bad, the one thing all 4 of those games do have in common is that none of them are the kinds of games that make mainstream audiences go, I need to get an Xbox, or I need to sign up for Game Pass. And so they're out, right? And Arcane Austin is, let's be honest about it, the second in command team. They're the B team to Arcane France. And so Arcane in France is the one that makes Dishonored. They're the ones that made Deathloop. They're the ones that make these critical darlings. Arcane Austin is the one that made Prey, the one that made Redfall. And not to say those games aren't also great, especially Prey. It's a highly regarded game. It's just to say they are the second in command, and they have not created a game, historically, that has made general audiences go, wait a minute, I need Game Pass. I got to try that game. Let me subscribe, right? So, unfortunately, when you look at Bethesda's portfolio of teams, and you look at, if you had to drop 1 or 2 teams, who would it be? The problem is Bethesda has a really strong lineup of teams, with Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks in the mix. They have a very strong lineup of teams. But is the team that you need to cut Bethesda Game Studios? Of course not. That's your Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield guy. Of course not. Is the team you need to cut down or cut out Machine Games, the guys that make Wolfenstein, that are making Indiana Jones right now? Of course not. Let's not be stupid. They're one of your A teams. Is the team that needs to get cut out Doom? The guys, one of the most storied game developers of all time that created Doom and are currently creating these really highly successful Doom games? No, of course not. It's not those guys. So it's not that some of these teams are bad or that, these teams have put out bad work and therefore they need to be shut down. It's that id, Machine Games, Bethesda Game Studios, these teams, ZeniMax Online, these teams have created games that resonate with wide audiences, general audiences, hardcore gamers, massive swaths of players, millions and millions of people. They've resonated. So when you're looking at streamlining your different arms, and I look at it as like Xbox Games Studios is one, Bethesda ZeniMax is one, Activision Blizzard is one. When you look at it in those silos, looking at the Bethesda family, obviously it's like someone puts a gun to your head and says, cut a couple of these teams. Well, the teams they picked are the ones that you're going to naturally have to select. And so when we look at these Xbox studio closures or layoffs that are coming to Xbox Game Studios in the near future, take that same logic and look at it. Why haven't 343 been punished for their mishandling of Halo? Because Halo is a huge IP that draws players from all walks of life and has huge monetary value to it. And so you don't get rid of those guys. Same with the Coalition and Gears of War. Same with Rare and Sea of Thieves. That's why those teams will be fine. That's why you don't have to worry about I wouldn't worry about Turn 10 Studios and Forza, right? These teams have proven themselves to be fine. They have the mega franchises. They have the wide mainstream appeal. But look at like Double Fine, who we all know as hardcore gamers make critical darlings. They make the most creative little interesting games you've ever seen in your life. But Double Fine have not made many games that have had huge wide stream, many millions of casual gamer appeal to them. And so I'm not saying Double Fine's a bad studio. I'm not saying Double Fine should be shut down or have layoffs. But if you're going to look at the lineup of Xbox Game Studios and say who is most likely to release another game that doesn't draw millions of new eyes to Game Pass, it's like, well, probably a team like Double Fine, because they don't make those kinds of games. They don't make Halo and Last of Us kinds of games. They make Psychonauts. They make they make Candy Quest. So like, let's be honest about this. Or Costume Quest, not Candy Quest. So that's the logic. I just want to preface with all that because that's the logic. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just trying to say I understand. So the logic behind closing down those Bethesda teams is about trying to make sure you're pumping your money into teams that are going to make games that are going to have serious return on investment. High stake, like high risk, high reward, right? Big budget AAA games, multiplayer games that have millions of people playing, games that draw tons of people to want to subscribe to Game Pass, buy Xbox hardware, spend time and spend money within these games. Activision is kind of really important for Xbox in this regard because really all they do nowadays is make games that have that kind of cast, that kind of market. And so you look at a move like in 2018 when they formed the initiative, it was kind of this idea of like, let's poach talent from all the best teams. We'll get them from the Sony teams. We'll get them from Ubisoft. We'll get them from Bungie. We'll get them from everyone. And we'll poach this talent and we'll form a new team that will be tasked with creating defining AAA games. Obviously, it seems like what's going on with the initiative has not panned out in their favor. That is Xbox Game Studios' big blunder right now is the initiative and everything that hasn't gone right over there. But now Xbox is looking at their their portfolio of teams, and they're going, well, now we have Activision, and Activision kind of to some extent operates as its own silo, just like Bethesda kind of operates as its own silo. What if we take the know-how and the team and the culture at Activision and task them with forming a new team that is going to make another big game? Hire the best talent like we did with the initiative, go to Bungie, go to Ubisoft, go to CD Projekt Red, go to Naughty Dog, and poach the best talent, and then do what the initiative was supposed to do. Make a game that is going to be an all-new IP that's going to get millions and millions of players, both hardcore and casual, a game that's going to make people go, whoa, that's the new thing Xbox has got going on, or oh my god, that's what's on Game Pass right now? I gotta subscribe. Because that's the problem, is a game like Hi-Fi Rush comes out, and existing Game Pass subscribers are like, fuck yeah, that's a great game. And the game's media goes, this is a great game. What a great day for Xbox. But Joe at your office, who only plays Madden and Call of Duty, is going to go, I don't know what the fuck a Hi-Fi Rush is. But let's say this new Activision team, Elsewhere Entertainment, let's say they make a new game that is Call of Duty caliber or Fortnite caliber or even something smaller but still huge like Elden Ring caliber, right? If they can make a game, a new IP that does that, whether it's single player, multiplayer, whatever, as long as it attracts millions and millions of people and gets that kind of just high profile spotlight type of treatment, then they've succeeded in their job, because that's what Xbox is looking internally and saying, what do we need? And it is big games. I mean, it couldn't be a better week to talk about, to make this point, right? Because you're looking at Hellblade 2, and Hellblade 2 is one of those games, man. It's doing well critically. A lot of people in the industry have good things to say about it. A lot of Xbox fans are going to play this. Existing Game Pass subscribers are going to be curious to check it out. And maybe some hardcore gamers, people in the know, might be like, you know what, I'm going to resubscribe to Game Pass this month to check out Hellblade 2. But Joe from your work, who only plays Call of Duty and Madden, isn't going to give a shit about Hellblade 2. He doesn't care. Hellblade 2 is not going to make him subscribe to Game Pass. But maybe if Elsewhere Entertainment can make something that is, I don't know, something huge like a Fallout tier IP, or like a Call of Duty tier IP, or like a Halo or Gears of War tier IP, then holy fuck, that's worth it. That's worth way more to Xbox than a team like Tango Gameworks, than a team like Arcane Austin. And again, I'm not saying I support that logic. I'm saying I'm trying to get in their mindset and understand where they're coming from. And I think plain and simple, that's what it's all about. They didn't shut down Tango and Arcane because money's tight. They shut down Tango and Arcane because we're in a time right now where inflation's high, the games industry is hurting, it's kind of a turbulent era, and you don't make money and efficiently run a business by just having teams around that make great games, mind you, but games that don't provide a huge return on investment. And even though Microsoft has fuck you money to hell and back, and I personally think the right thing to do is to trust in those studios and believe in those studios and continue to support and back those studios until they have their big success. At the end of the day, when the higher-ups are pulling the strings and the investors are putting pressure on you and Satya Nadella suddenly gives a shit about Xbox, I get it. It's hard to be like, well, yeah, Tango Gameworks, they're a team that's been around for over a decade now. They've never put out a game that's attracted mainstream attention. They've never put out a game that's attracted like the kind of player base we need to grow Game Pass subscribers. And then you're Satya Nadella or someone higher up and you're like, all right, well, we don't need that team. And I don't think that's how the decision was made, but I think there's pressure being put on Xbox that leads to mind tracks that make decisions like this a possibility, an inevitability. Oh my God, I can't talk. But that's just the logic behind it, or that's how I see the logic behind all this. Again, I'm not saying I support it or condone it. I'm just saying that's what I see here. So, yeah, Elsewhere Entertainment, hey, it's a cool idea, right? We were all excited when the initiative got formed. It was a very promising moment in Xbox history. Very much has not panned out whatsoever. It's been 7 years. They haven't done a goddamn thing. And it seems like the game they're making is in development hell and is a revival of an IP no one wanted to see come back. But maybe we're wrong, and maybe Perfect Dark kills. And Xbox is clearly, they believe in this idea enough to do it again. And maybe they think under Activision they can have better luck making this happen. Who knows? We'll see. But again, this is the problem with this kind of decision. This is why this kind of logic is so dangerous. Is because a team like Tango Gameworks is not very expensive to own and operate, and to have pumping out new ideas. And if a game like Hi-Fi Rush, is a critical success and is big among the hardcore gamers, but not the casual gamers, at the very end of the day, at least it was a relatively affordable and manageable game and team to support while they made Hi-Fi Rush. But the problem with teams like The Initiative and teams like Elsewhere Entertainment is they hire the most expensive top-tier talent in the most expensive cities on Earth, and they get tasked with making the most expensive, long-to-develop type AAA games, where it's like, listen, man, if Perfect Dark doesn't end up being a total smash hit, that's going to be a huge loss, financial loss for Microsoft. If whatever Elsewhere Entertainment does with this new IP doesn't hit, it's going to be a huge fucking financial loss for them. And you can't just manufacture a new water cooler game just because you hire people from well-regarded teams like CD Projekt and Bungie and Naughty Dog. Just because you hire talent from those teams doesn't guarantee you success. It doesn't mean you're going to get a game like Cyberpunk or like The Last of Us or like Destiny. You're not guaranteed that just because you got talent from those teams. You can only do so much at the end of the day. Corporations, the dollar, that kind of stuff can only do so much to buy success, to buy your way into a surefire spotlight type moment with the game on your hands, with a smash hit game on your hands. Xbox wants, you look at games in recent history that have been huge. They want Helldivers 2. They want Hogwarts Legacy. They want Elden Ring. They want Baldur's Gate 3. They want Cyberpunk 2077 after all the drama when it first came out. They want a game like that. Or a live service game. They want a game like Fortnite. They want a game like Warzone, in addition to Warzone, because now they have Warzone. But that's the point, though. It's a really, really dangerous game. You're really ratcheting things up. These are kinds of the decisions that make it so fucking hard for new publishers and new developers to get into the industry, because everything has to be this state-of-the-art, top-tier, highest-end video game developer. Every game has to be the biggest game. Every publisher can only work with the biggest games. No, it's not good enough to be the team that made Ollie Ollie. You got to make Grand Theft Auto 6. It's not enough to make Hi-Fi Rush. You got to make Call of Duty. And that's the problem with the games industry. And that's what a decision like closing down Tango Gameworks and then opening Elsewhere Entertainment underscores and highlights, is that this problem is only getting worse and persisting. But that's the decision they've made. Good luck to you. Best of luck to you. I hope this is a roaring success. I hope whatever they come up with is awesome, and that we get a great new IP and we get a great new reason to love Game Pass. But that's how I read what this news is all about, because I know there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of, how the hell are you going to close a team 1 week and then like 14 days later you got a whole new team? I get it. But remember, Microsoft tries to / pretends to be very hands-off with these teams. So, like, even though Matt Booty is in charge of it all for some fucking reason, he got the power to do that. Activision still gets to somewhat operate autonomously as Activision, so they can retain their culture, as Bethesda gets to do with theirs, as Xbox Game Studios gets to be their own independent silo. And with that, I think they're banking on and betting on this idea that Activision culture and work attitude and everything that has led to the success of being able to do annualized Call of Duty games might be able to trickle down into and help influence and get a team like Elsewhere Entertainment to be set up for success, to be able to do this impossible task that they've been tasked with. So we'll see. Good luck, Elsewhere Entertainment. Must fucking suck to work at Tango Gameworks and see this news. All right, next up, Xbox making changes to Game Pass. Call of Duty, how's this work? Okay, there's been a lot of back and forth in recent weeks about, is Call of Duty even going to come to Game Pass? Can Microsoft afford to do that? They can't afford to do that. They can't not afford to do it. Like, where we stand on this? So, from VGC's write-up originally, but with reporting from Wall Street Journal and Reset Era, we got this story. Xbox will make changes to the current Game Pass subscription model when the next Call of Duty game is released. It's been claimed. Last week, Wall Street Journal claimed, according to sources with knowledge on the situation, that this year's entry, which is yet to be officially announced, but we're getting teases for it, will be included in the subscription service. So the next Black Ops game will be on Game Pass, according to this reporting. This would mark the first time Call of Duty has been included in such a service at launch, and would mean that players with access to Xbox platforms, the entry cost for the game would be as little as $11 a month as the subscription model currently stands. However, industry insider Shinobi602 has claimed on Reset Era that the addition of Call of Duty into Game Pass will also give Xbox the opportunity to refresh the structure accordingly. And that's interesting to note because, I mean, Game Pass's tier structure was only overhauled like a year ago, so let's do it again. One user on the forum predicted that there would be a price increase for Game Pass, while another said, for sure, they want to sign up as many as they can for COD to be on the new fee, and will probably reorganize the tiers to be less confusing mess than it is now. But while Shinobi602 didn't specifically confirm a price increase or a tier restructure, what they did say was, yes, there will be changes. Unfortunately, that's all we have for now. HD Hobbs writes it and says, I don't see a scenario where Microsoft plans to put Call of Duty on Game Pass as it is now. Perhaps at the higher tier, let's call it Game Pass Elite, where you get access to new Call of Duty plus a couple of game skins and other perks, but not a season pass. Other Activision Blizzard games and perks may be seasonal content for Diablo 4. Do you think that most Game Pass subscribers will be willing to pay an extra $10 per month for something like that? I do think that is roughly what's going to happen. think people overreact a little bit about how confusing the current Game Pass tiers are. I think by getting rid of the Xbox Live branding and kind of just making it all Game Pass, that did streamline things. But it's like the example I always use about when they made that Buzz Lightyear movie a few years ago, and people pretended to be confused about it. They're like, how does this play into Toy Story? I'm confused. It's like, you're not confused. You're just being a fucking idiot for the sake of making the internet an even more chaotic place than it already is. So I don't know. I don't think the tiers are currently confusing. I think people are just trying to be annoying. That being said, the tiers have to change. I get it. There's been enough back and forth and conflicting reports to confirm one thing at the very least, which is that there is an internal war happening at Xbox/Microsoft about how to handle Call of Duty in Game Pass. The thing is, you have to put Call of Duty in Game Pass. That was why you bought Activision. I don't care how many times Phil Spencer talks about mobile games and being relevant in the mobile space. That's great, but that's your mid to long term outlook for goal and plan for what you do with Activision Blizzard under your belt. But in the immediate short term, the reason you bought Activision is because, holy fuck, you own Call of Duty. You can put Call of Duty in Game Pass, and then suddenly half the world's gaming population has to give a shit about Game Pass now because Call of Duty's in it. Whether they sign up for it or not, I can't say. But they have to give a shit about it, and it's guaranteed to get you at least some bump in subscribers because Call of Duty. Now, Call of Duty is one of the most expensive fucking things in the world to make. And throwing it into Game Pass as it stands now will only make them hemorrhage even more money because, let's be honest, Game Pass is not profitable as it stands now, despite how many times your favorite Twitter friend with an Xbox logo and no social life tells you it's the best thing in the world. But the fact of the matter is, they got to find a way to make this financially stable. The problem is, I think the Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, Sarah Bond executive combo that ran the cute little quaint Xbox that didn't have Activision back a year ago and onward, or in further back, I think their plan was to put Call of Duty in Game Pass and eat the loss because you can get a shit ton of subscribers that way. But I think the new Xbox that has its hands tied because now Papa Microsoft is staring down their fucking, is staring, breathing down their necks, and they got, investors alongside with them saying, what are you doing? How are you going to be profitable? How will you make more money? How will you extract more value for this $3 trillion company? They're going, okay, well, you can't give away Call of Duty for free, or you can't give it away on that subscription service that currently loses money. You got to do something. And I think the middle ground is going to be, obviously, a tier of Game Pass that includes Call of Duty. And I think you're onto something, HD Hobbs, because I don't know if you can have a tier of Game Pass where it's like the only reason why this ultra high tier exists is just to get you access to Call of Duty and nothing else, because then I think the value proposition's lost, and people will be like, well, fuck it, just go buy Call of Duty and subscribe to the cheap tier of Game Pass. Why would I do that? I think they're going to have to do something along the lines of what you're saying, and I think that's true. They're going to say, we're now going to splinter our games between first-party games that we think really matter and first-party games that we'll throw to you anyway. So, for example, a game like Hi-Fi Rush or Pentiment comes to Game Pass, that will come in the base 2 or 3 tiers of Game Pass. A game like Halo Infinite 7 or Call of Duty 35 or Gears of War 69 comes out, that game will be in the Game Pass Ultimate Fuck You tier. The higher they believe in the game, the more they believe in the game, the bigger the game is. A game like Starfield, a game like the next Fallout, a game like the next Elder Scrolls, these are the games that will go into that ultra tier. Let's take your name, right? I like that name because it recycles the Elite name, which is within the which is paying respect and homage to Xbox's legacy. I like that. So Game Pass Elite. So there's Game Pass that comes with just access to the catalog. Then there's Game Pass that comes with just access to play games online with a small little curated catalog of 20 games or so that switch out from time to time so you can get a taste of Game Pass. And then there's Game Pass that has everything, which is Game Pass Ultimate, which comes with online play plus the full Game Pass catalog and all of that. So that's the 3 tiers we have now. Now you just add a 4th tier that is called Game Pass Elite, and that tier gives you access to the premier games or the elite games. They can call them elite games. And then you just have to say it like, okay, we think Hellblade 2 is a regular game. It goes into the regular Game Pass subscription. But Call of Duty is an elite game, so you have to have the highest tier Game Pass to get Call of Duty. But you have to do more games than just one, otherwise you're just telling people, go buy Call of Duty a la carte, and then subscribe to a cheaper tier Game Pass. And then I also like your point here, which is like you just take some of the perks and throw them in there. I think they can be a little more sleazy than what you're suggesting, HD Hobbs. I think they can take pre-existing perks, take them away from Game Pass Ultimate subscribers, and give them to these Game Pass Elite subscribers. So EA Play, you know how you get EA Play if you're a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber? Take that away from Ultimate subscribers, give it to Elite subscribers. So Elite subscribers get access to Elite games day one, whereas Game Pass Ultimate subscribers have to wait 6 months to a year for the game to come. Plus, they get access to EA Play and all the other random little freebies they do every once in a while, where it's like a free month of fucking Grubhub or whatever the hell they give you. So I think that's clearly the direction they're going to go. Whether it's slightly different than that or whatever, you know, how they structure it. I think, HD Hobbs, you are absolutely in the ballpark of where this is headed. And I wanted to read this comment here because I think this is a very timely write-in and a very accurate depiction of what we're probably about to see. And I assume that will probably get announced within a month or so of when this new Call of Duty comes out. So maybe as we approach Indiana Jones and Call of Duty, and this is a great time for them to roll it out too, because they can be like, our first 2 Elite games that we can confirm today are going to be Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. These games will be available day one for Xbox Game Pass Elite subscribers. For all of you Ultimate subscribers and below, you guys will get this game whenever the fuck we feel like it, in 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, whatever. But yeah, I think that's the ground we're headed in. And you know what? I'm totally fine with this because I was never one of those people who was naive enough to think that the price Game Pass is out right now is the price it will stay at. I think that's absolutely ridiculous to think. So I know it's only a matter of time before, you know, the price goes up. So I'm ready for it. I understand it. I don't want it. I don't love it, but I understand it's happening, and I'm ready. I'm ready to accept. So there we go. That's our big news story. Now we only have one more, like, quote unquote big news story for the week, but it's not really a news story. This is an op-ed that Windows Central's Jez Corden wrote, an editorial. And I think he makes some really cogent points, and so I wanted to highlight some excerpts from this editorial, read them here, and then spark a little discussion with you guys. And I highly recommend you guys read this, especially if you're just into Microsoft in general, as I am. You know, you like Surface, you like Xbox, you like Windows Phone, all that kind of stuff. If you're into like all that gamut of Microsoft shit, this is I think a really good read over on Windows Central, written by Jez Corden of the Xbox 2 podcast. So anyway, I'm going to read a little opening just to kind of give some context, and then read these highlighted notes I have here. And it's a fairly recent, like decently lengthy read. So I'm just, again, what I have here is like a fraction of what's in the actual article. We're just focusing on the Xbox stuff, but he talks about everything. All right, Jez says, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella has turned the company away from declining relevance to the most prestigious investment in the world. Still, the sacrifices required to achieve this goal are becoming increasingly problematic. Microsoft is on the cutting edge of AI tools with stuff like Copilot, which businesses worldwide will leverage as part of what have touted to be a new industrial revolution. The hype certainly is real. Baked into Azure, Copilot and others is a similar language, and other similar language models will accelerate the speed of code generation and art asset production and enable new business models that have never been dreamt before. Okay, here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of it, because they're talking about AI being Microsoft's main focus and how this desire to accelerate this progress is coming at the cost of decisions they should make with other brands. He says, despite the hype surrounding Microsoft's lead in this category, what's often less talked about is how much further ahead Microsoft would be if Satya Nadella and his team at Microsoft hadn't made a range of baffling, short-sighted decisions in previous years. It stands to reason that moving your exclusive games like Halo, Gears, Forza to PlayStation eliminates a reason to buy an Xbox console altogether. If you eliminate reasons to buy an Xbox console, you're once again handing the keys to your future other platforms, or in the future to other platforms, a problem Microsoft has right now with Google and Apple. Furthermore, you're removing an endpoint to acquire users via Xbox Game Pass. Cloud is prohibitively expensive right now and is gatekept by Apple and Google. once again blocking in-app purchases or in some cases blocking it entirely. You're also decreasing your footprint and game developers who will increasingly see Xbox's versions as a waste of time. You're setting yourself up for a tailspin, nosedive of exclusion, to the point where Xbox becomes another game publisher without a say in the overall direction of the industry. But maybe that's just the idea. The plan to move away from Xbox and other platforms, codenamed Latitude internally, and I have heard that there's a debate and unease at Microsoft about whether or not this is a good idea. More upcoming Microsoft-owned games slated for PlayStation are already being developed. At least for now, they're potentially obvious games you'd mostly expect. And yes, while it's true Microsoft is a prolific publisher on PlayStation already, it has typically revolved around specific franchises like Minecraft. From what I've heard, Microsoft is pushing for no red line for what games could come to PlayStation. And it revolves around Satya Nadella and CFO Amy Hood's mandate to increase every department's margins. Obviously, putting Halo Infinite on PlayStation will increase profit margins. Sea of Thieves enjoyed the top spot on the PlayStation Store this past week. And in the perfect world, it's great that more people get to play these games. But we don't live in a perfect world where platform holders willingly collaborate with customers for customers' betterment while competing on pure value. Like many of Microsoft's other recent strategies, pursuing this strategy is a short-term margin booster with long-term consequences. Yes, the industry is struggling, and Microsoft isn't the only one hardware manufacturer that is seeing declines. But destroying the foundational reasons to buy an Xbox is not your answer. And it's not the answer you give if you care about the long term. All right, we'll stop there because, as you can already tell, if you just by hearing that, this is a very compelling read. Jez is bringing up some great points and making a very compelling point. And he talks about this in regards to Windows Phone and other examples, talking about how Satya Nadella has even admitted in recent years, like, hey, giving up on Windows Phone was kind of a fucking mistake. And it's true, because you look at Microsoft and the things they're trying to do right now by building out an app store and making Xbox grow on mobile. It's like, well, that would be a lot easier to do if you had a really prolific mobile division, right? If you guys made mobile hardware and had Windows Phone, right? Then you could make Windows Phone the fucking mobile home team for Xbox and all things Xbox, as opposed, which would bolster Windows Phone and would bolster Xbox on mobile, which is exactly what you need. But instead of doubling down and investing hard in mobile and making Windows Phone what it needed to be, which was so doable, but they just never had both feet in that project, they let Windows Phone flounder, they gave up on it, and they let it die a slow and painful death, despite being the best fucking mobile operating system on the market. Microsoft had the best thing, let it flounder, let it die, and then moved on and continued to do boring shit like Azure, which is so fucking typical of this company. And what he's saying is, this kind of short-sighted attitude is you're gonna give things like Xbox a similar fate, where right now Xbox is great. They're making money, baby. They got Call of Duty now. They're selling games left and right on PlayStation. But even though you're making money today off of that, what ramification does that have for Xbox in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? When everyone's like, yeah, I don't buy Xbox, I don't subscribe to Game Pass because all that shit comes to PlayStation. It's like, exactly. You're destroying Xbox. You'll make money today and fuck the brand entirely tomorrow. Whereas you could struggle today, get through the hard times, do the legwork, do the hard fucking legwork, get the right people in charge, right the wrongs, turn the ship around, do the things you need to do to make Xbox the most competitive, viable, vibrant brand it absolutely can be and has been before in the past, but Microsoft just refuses to do that. They'd rather just go the lazy, easy route out and say, hey, we can make a lot of money by putting a Halo on PlayStation. Okay. See what that does to Xbox in a few years. Cargo Runner 9960 writes it and says, I think we all dreamed that Phil Spencer would bring exclusive games and gamer focus back to the Xbox brand. But the exclusive games didn't come. The console sales didn't happen. And now the accountants are back in control of Xbox, and they will stay in control. We just have to accept that now. It's kind of ironic that the June showcase might be the long-awaited start of Phil's pipeline of great exclusives. Amen. I really like Phil's smart delivery idea, so I really hope the mobile store and Xbox store eventually merge. So you can buy and play mobile games that just work on phone or console or PC. Modern mobile devices are more powerful than the Xbox 360. It would be cool if you could seamlessly play the backwards compatible Xbox 360 games that you bought digitally on your phone. one store, one purchase, play anywhere. At least we have something good coming out of this accountant taking over gaming. P.S. After all your Wasteland 3 love, I bought a copy myself. A local store had a physical copy on sale. Cargo Runner, shout out to you. I love Wasteland 3. Hope you love it. I think this is a really great way of putting it succinctly and aptly. And that's what I was talking about, I think a few months ago on the podcast, where there's just something so like, I don't know, something so like poetically tragic about the way this is playing out, where if you've been an Xbox fan for some time, you know the joke, the meme, the story, the promise, the outcry has been, just wait, the games are coming. Just fucking wait, the games are coming. Just wait, the games are coming. And I have always said, I know every other Xbox podcaster and every Xbox fan have said the same thing. It's not a novel idea. If Xbox could just land a 12 to 18 month period of like a couple months, boom, big Game Pass release, couple months, boom, big Game Pass release. And I'm talking big Game Pass releases, games that get people to stop and pay attention. I'm talking about Avowed, it got the world by storm. Then Indiana Jones got the world by storm. Then Call of Duty got the world by storm. Hellblade 2 got the world by storm. And I'm talking about every couple months, you got another one of these bangers after banger after banger. The closest we ever got was that double header of Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5. But then it just dried up again after that. So we always talk about, like, if Xbox could just land that kind of moment, that's it. That's all they need. It would change everything, because immediately people would be like, hey, you know what? Xbox is kind of fucking on fire right now, and Game Pass is kind of an amazing deal. Look at all these amazing games I keep hearing about, and they're all on Game Pass. And it's funny because with the year we're about to have, starting with Hellblade coming out this week and ending with Indiana Jones coming out at the end of the year and everything in between, along with this showcase that is being teased to us by people in the know to be the fucking showcase we're all waiting for, where they're going to focus on short to mid-term games, not long-term games, and they're going to say, here's a gameplay trailer, here's a release date, here's a game, here's a game, here's a game, here's a game, and we're about to have a jam-packed 2024 followed by a jam-packed 2025 with tons to look forward to. And it's so tragic because this is all happening right at the time where finally higher-ups at Xbox are stepping in and saying, pull the plug, we're done here, put it all on PlayStation, fuck you. And here we are. It's just so Microsoft. Do I agree that it took Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and the team at Xbox way too fucking long to get to this point? Should they have had this figured out and set up in a way where maybe the games are finally here and Game Pass is finally valuable in like 2020, 2021, maybe even earlier? Yeah, absolutely. I don't mean to let those guys off the hook and pretend that they don't have some blood on their hands with how this has been handled. Absolutely, Xbox has mismanaged this whole operation. But man, oh man, it looks like they really did finally get there, and it's just too late. It reminds me again. It's like, as Jez Corden kind of points to in this article, comparing this with a Windows Phone, dude. It reminds me of, you know, if you're a broader Microsoft fan, you know, 2015, in the fall of 2015, they had this legendary Microsoft press conference where they revealed Microsoft Band 2, Surface Pro 4. The Surface Book, the first Surface Book, which blew people's minds. Xbox One was doing great. Halo 5 was just about to come out. And to top it all off, we got our last flagship Windows Phone that ever happened, the Lumia 950 and 950 XL, the Microsoft Lumia 950. And it was an amazing showcase. It was like, holy fucking, like, if you're like a weird Microsoft fanboy for some fucking reason, like I am and like other mentally deranged people are, you're like, holy shit, man. I still have like a little stash. I look at my Microsoft Band 2. I still think finally about Halo 5. Still the coolest fucking Surface device ever to come out was the Surface Book. Like, it was amazing. It was fucking amazing. But the problem is, Microsoft wasn't there to back up any of those teams. And shortly after that, Xbox was really struggling, and that's what led us to the situation we're in today. And shortly after that, they canceled the fitness and health initiative at Microsoft, and Microsoft Band was canceled despite Microsoft Band 2 being so fucking cool. And then shortly after the Microsoft Lumia 950 came out, they're like, there's our new flagship Windows Phone, and fuck you, we're never making another one, and we'll just ignore this for 2 years and then pull the plug on it. And it sucks because that was like that last moment where it was like, fuck yeah, Microsoft, you're finally pulling the consumer product thing together. You got everything firing on all cylinders. This is it. We're here, baby. Let's fucking go. and they gave up on everything. And now they're doing it to Xbox because they're going to say, all right, there's so much money to be made in publishing. Let's just do publishing. And they're going to give up on the console. I know we're getting another generation of consoles. I believe it. I believe we're going to get our fucking little Xbox AI chip console, and we'll get our handheld Switch Xbox, which we're all looking forward to. But I don't know after that how you can justify R&Ding another piece of hardware when this Xbox that's on the market right now is selling like ass, even though it shouldn't be because it's awesome. And the next Xbox is going to sell like ass because you're putting all the fucking reasons to buy an Xbox on PlayStation. And then after that, your investors and Amy Hood and Satya Nadella and all these people who don't fucking get what they're doing with Xbox are going to go, oh, huh. Yeah, let's just make games for PC and PlayStation. There's no reason to do this console thing. We're done here. We're done. We'll try to get Game Pass. Game Pass will be a subscription you can do for mobile and PC because God knows PlayStation's not going to let you put it on their console. We'll sell all of our games a la carte on whatever platform will take them. That's what we're going to do. And that's where Xbox is headed. Absolutely. Game Pass will stay. Xbox as a brand will stay. They'll own these teams and put out these games, but the console's going away. I fucking believe it. And Cronky, I know you're fucking fuming if you're listening to this, but I believe it. In fact, let's actually just pull your comment in here, Cronky, because I think it actually is relevant to this conversation. So we're dipping into our comments at the end of the podcast. We're going to read what Cronky wrote in about all this, and he goes with the following. I'm really tired of this nonsense narrative that Xbox will leave the console marketplace. I'm seeing this all over the internet. Xbox is apples and oranges when compared with Sega. Xbox exists in a large part of the digital storefront. To give that up would be idiotic. They own one of the largest digital marketplaces in the world behind mobile, Steam, PlayStation, etc. The console exclusive games exist to get you into the ecosystem so that the digital sales make the money. We all knew this a few months ago, but then recent news of studio closures and games going to PlayStation made people forget, I guess. It would literally destroy Xbox's revenue to shut down the marketplace like everyone is suggesting. How on earth would they afford to keep 20 plus studios and only make revenue on their game sales? This is comical. Bethesda couldn't even do that with 8 studios. Imagine even more teams pulling it off. I found specific numbers on how much revenue content and services makes for Xbox. I kind of doubt that they're accurate, so instead look at every dang report of earnings and just see it's always in double digits. This isn't just Game Pass. We all know Game Pass has been stagnant. This is from game sales on their digital marketplace. It is very possible that all of their games will go to PlayStation, just like they go to PC now. And yet, like 30 million Xbox Series consoles were still sold despite it not having a single exclusive game on it. Crossfire X. So please stop with this part of doom and gloom. No matter how much we all cry about it, they're not leaving the console space, at least not anytime remotely soon. Cronky, agree to disagree. See, the difference with the PC versus the Xbox argument and why it's okay for Xbox to put their games on PC and why I never bitched and moaned about this from the day it started happening back in 2016 is because a PC gamer will not come to console. Trust me, I know these people. They are a dirty, delinquent, low-life breed of people. They do not come to console. They sit in their offices, they get carpal tunnel, they get hunchbacks, and they play with mouse and keyboard for hours on end, sometimes days. These people don't see daylight. They will not come to console. But you can lose console people to other consoles that are better, right? You're not going to I'm not going to give up my Android phone because I can just get a laptop with a cellular 5G chip and be like, oh, I can just text my friends and iMessage from my laptop. Why do I need a fucking iPhone? I'm an idiot. Those people exist and they're fucking weird. And that's a terrible example, but I'm going to stick with it anyway because it's funny. But the fact of the matter is, you can lose a Samsung user to iPhone if the next Samsung gives you no fucking reason to have a Samsung. And you can lose an iPhone user to Samsung if the next iPhone gives you no fucking good reason to stay on iPhone. That could happen. But you never lose the console guy. You never lose the PC guy to console. And that's why PlayStation, and all you need to do to understand that is to look at what PlayStation's doing, because PlayStation lives and dies. Sony lives and dies by the success of PlayStation. They wouldn't ever dare do something that could jeopardize the success of their home console, the PlayStation. So when they decide to start putting games on PC, you know it only further affirms This idea that selling your games on PlayStation or on PC does not cannibalize your console success or sales at all. It doesn't really affect it. It just helps you make more money off a group of people who otherwise wouldn't buy your damn box. But putting all your games on PlayStation absolutely hurts Xbox, because now you're telling people who do play console games, never buy this console. It's fucking stupid. It's just dumb. I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know. It's like telling someone, like, I don't know. Like, what if you had a washer, a dryer, an oven, a microwave, and a stovetop all in one fucking home appliance, right? You'd buy that home appliance. You wouldn't be like, no, I'm just going to buy a stove and a microwave instead that don't do all the things the other thing does. When you give that one thing all the features and all the benefits and all the reason to be the best, then it's like, why the fuck? I don't know. Hey, maybe you can justify it by being like, it's like a spork. People still sell spoons and forks even though sporks exist. I don't know. Maybe this is a bad example, but I guess the point I'm just trying to make is there's a very direct competitive comparison between buying a PlayStation and buying an Xbox. And the only thing Xbox has left is that you can buy the console and then subscribe indefinitely to Game Pass and get a catalog of games you don't get on PlayStation. Not that the games aren't available on PlayStation, just that you could potentially save money by having this subscription service as opposed to buying games a la carte. And even then, it's like, kinda. I guess. I mean, Game Pass doesn't always have all the games you want, so maybe it just makes more sense to buy the games you want a la carte. I don't know, man. I just, we got to agree to disagree on this, because I don't see what you're saying. And no, I'm not looking at the data in the sheets and everything, but they're not making money off of marketplace transactions and storefront transactions the way they used to. I'm not saying that the number's gone down. I'm just saying that that's not the main model anymore. They get the 30% rip. You buy the latest Far Cry on Xbox's storefront, Xbox gets a 30% rip on that because they're the publisher. They're publishing it on their platform, on their storefront. I get that. And that is where these guys traditionally make their money. That is the whole fucking point of Xbox and PlayStation, is that they make money. They make 30% on every game that someone else sells on their platform. But the word is that people aren't fucking buying games on Xbox anymore, because Game Pass has trained people to stop buying games. And that doesn't mean Xbox doesn't make any money at all. It just means they're seeing that decline too. And Game Pass is the golden ticket. Game Pass is the thing that they're so focused on. The problem is Xbox is trying to have their cake and eat it too, in multiple ways. At first, it was just by trying to sell games a la carte and have Game Pass. But now it's by trying to have Game Pass and trying to sell games a la carte and trying to sell those games a la carte on your direct competitor's platform, and trying to get people to play games on mobile, and trying to get people to still spend a lot of money on Call of Duty despite the fact that you're offering it in Game Pass. It's a lot of things in one that they're trying to do. And that's the problem. I know the storefront makes money, and I know they're leaving money on the table by abandoning the storefront. But when publishers start abandoning putting their games on Game Pass or on Xbox, and when indie developers start saying there's no money to be made on Xbox, their install base is low, and the only things people play is Game Pass, then people will stop putting their games on your console. And the Xbox audience is already being trained not to buy games on Xbox. So, yeah, it is great to make a 30% rip off every game someone sells on your platform. But if people aren't selling games on your platform, and people aren't buying games on your platform in the first place, that's also a dying market. So that's the problem here. Is just like how they're killing the hardware by putting the games on PlayStation, they're killing the marketplace by doing that as well, because now nobody wants to support Xbox. And that's the verdict's still a little bit out on that one. The jury's still a little bit out on that one, because we haven't seen it exactly play out and happen yet. So we don't know for 100% sure that's how it's going to continue to play or how it's going to end up. But it looks like we're headed that way. All signs point to that, and that's the problem. So I don't know, man. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Write in. Obviously, we're all just kind of taking our best guesses here, because we don't know the future. And Xbox doesn't know the future. And Microsoft doesn't know the future, because there's a war happening in there between people at Xbox and people at Microsoft. And we're just going to have to watch this all play out. But trying to make my most educated guess based on what we know and what's been happening, I think Xbox hardware is doomed. I hope you're right, Cronky. I really hope it's not, because goddamn do I love Xbox hardware. But I don't know, man. I watched that. I had a Nokia 950, dude. I still got it. I have it in a drawer with all my other Nokias, okay? All my other Lumias. I have a Lumia 950 XL. You gonna tell me? You gonna tell me that didn't go away? You know what else would have been nice? Is if Microsoft could have made 30% rip off every fucking app downloaded on Windows Phone. But they gave up on that, didn't they? I'm telling you, man. All they had to do was spend their Microsoft money and convince Instagram and Snapchat and all these other companies to put their apps on Windows Phone, and then people would have started buying Windows Phone more because it had the app support. But they couldn't invest when they needed to invest. They couldn't take the short-term loss to get the long-term gain. They gave up on the platform. And we're seeing that behavior repeat itself here with Xbox right now. So pardon me if I sound like I'm just being a little too doom and gloom, but I've seen this exact thing happen before with Satya Nadella at the helm of Microsoft. And it looks like he's doing it again with his bald fucking head, dude. He's using his glasses and his bald head to destroy Xbox. I'm telling you, it's what they do. It's what they fucking do, man. All right. We're going to stop there before I start trashing people for immutable characteristics, because that's the lowest form of insult. Let's wrap it up there. Move on to the important enough news stories important enough to make the podcast, but not important enough to warrant their own discussions. And then we'll get into the comments and wrap it up. First one here, layoffs of the week. We don't have to get into that, thankfully. But we do have some GTA Take-Two news where Take-Two confirms that GTA 6 will be released in the fall of 2025. The news was confirmed during their financial report for the fiscal year in 2024. Listing some of the games planned for the next 3 fiscal years, the company said that GTA 6 will indeed be launching in the fall of calendar year 2025. Additionally, publisher 2K revealed the next iteration of the biggest and most beloved franchises will be shown at the Summer Games Fest on Friday, June 7th. So, developer Hangar 13 confirmed last year that a new Mafia game was in development, and then we also know that Take-Two formed a new team in 2019 called Cloud Chamber, who were tasked with making a new BioShock game. So you can assume we're probably going to see the new BioShock game or this new Mafia game at this event. Either way, it'll be exciting to see. Hopefully it's BioShock. I'd be really curious about that. Maybe they don't want to cannibalize Judas, though, since they're also publishing that game. So maybe they'll try to space it out. I don't know. We'll see. Next up, Microsoft has announced an Xbox Proteus controller, a new customizable controller aimed at gamers with accessibility issues. The controller will begin shipping for $299. Players who purchase the controller during the pre-order window will get 15% off the controller, which is made of several balls that snap together to form whichever shape is most comfortable for the user. According to the manufacturer BioWave, the controller will work with the Xbox Series consoles as well as Xbox One and PC at launch. This controller looks really, really cool. I'm really interested to see what people will do with that, by the way, just as a side note. But holy fuck, $300 is expensive. It's like telling someone, oh, you got a physical disability? Well, good news. You can play it on Xbox. You just got to be rich. But anyway, better than nothing, right? Next up, Creative Assembly is reportedly making an official Star Wars license game, because everyone is. According to DualShockers, as of October 2023, Total War Star Wars was one of the 3 Total War games in development at Sega-owned studio. It's unclear which of the games is closest to completion, but Sega normally releases a new series entry annually, and it's expected that the last 2 exceptions being in 2021 and 2014. The most recent was last year's Total War Pharaoh, which was developed by Bulgaria-based Creative Assembly Sofia. And lastly, the Xbox May update, which adds mouse and keyboard support for Xbox Cloud titles, is rolling out now. That's crazy. Mouse and keyboard support for cloud titles. So much more opportunity for those PC gamers to get their hunchbacks. It enables players to use their mouse and keyboard to play Xbox Cloud titles on the web browser, Edge or Chrome. Mouse and keyboard support for cloud gaming was first made available on the Xbox Insider Ring update member back in March. Whatever. Words. That's going to do it for all of our news, you guys. Let's get to the best and final section of the Xbox On podcast, the comments, shouts, write-ins, youtube.com/Xbox On podcast. Click on the latest episode of the show, and you write a comment. You hit like, you hit subscribe while you're there. And hey, if you have podcast services that you use, maybe you leave a 5-star review there as well. I would appreciate it. I love all of you, especially the ones that leave 5-star reviews, because then they help other people find the show, and then I can talk off more people's ears and piss them off with my ideas and opinions. So thank you all for writing in. Thank you all for listening to the show. Let's start off with our first comment here. We only have 4 entries left because we read quite a few of them during the show today. Talk about Xbox in Japan. HD Hobbs writes in again, says, do you think that Microsoft felt pressure to keep Tango Gameworks open as their Japanese studio because they knew Square Enix was going multi-platform, as we talked about last week on the show. I realized that these two studios didn't make the same type of games, but it's just a thought. Yeah, I mean, I get how your head could go there just because of the coincidence of these two stories lining up. But no, I don't think the two are related. I think it's great news for Xbox that it seems like Square Enix is going to start supporting Xbox and treating it like a citizen at all, let alone a first or second or third class citizen. So that's great. But I think to circle back to what we were talking about earlier, I think this is really just a matter of you look at Bethesda, and like Cronky was saying earlier, right? Bethesda couldn't do great business on their own, and that's why they do better under Microsoft, right? Or that's why they can exist under Microsoft, is because they weren't making fantastic money as an independent publisher. But you look at why that was, and it's probably because the development costs and the operation costs of having teams like Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin who make critically acclaimed games that don't sell, and you want to cut those teams because, again, you're trying to operate your business in the most efficient and optimal way. And that starts with getting rid of the people who, despite the fact that we all love them as hardcore gamers and people in the know, the mainstream doesn't play these games. They don't sell enough copies and they don't make enough money. So we have to get rid of teams like Tango as a result of that. And I really think it just comes down to that at the end of the day. And that's really all there is to say. Thank you for writing in, HD Hobbs. By the way, I'm so glad they put Calvin and Hobbs in HD and that you can be here to tell us about. All right, next up. Old Bethesda versus New Bethesda. This is a comment from last week that I promised we'd read this week because I skipped over it last week. Cargo Runner writes in and says, have to disagree with you on your comments about Bethesda. Old Bethesda was amazing at world building, but definitely not now. They used to have professional writers, and Elder Scrolls lore is stunning. You have world events from very different points of view. There was a lot of consistency. They did break some of the consistency over time, but it still remained good. With Fallout 4 and Starfield, Bethesda Game Studios really only cared about visuals and combat. It's all about appealing to the mass markets. The writing gets dumbed down with every release since Oblivion. They don't have professional writers anymore. The quest designs and the writing are just consistent, and consistency is not maintained anymore. I just replayed Fallout 4. The basic world lore is from the previous studio. The main Fallout 4 story is a bunch of cool ideas and combat situations in a row. You can really enjoy them. If you treat it like a popcorn movie and it's not supposed to be believable, there's a million plot holes. Starfield is a new IP, and the lore page is a one-page timeline. There's currently nothing going on in the world at all. The art design does not match world lore, and the world lore is that the Earth was evacuated and art and culture was spread around the galaxy. The actual game world looks nothing like this. There is no art, no culture, no big population. It's just believable. You said it's just a post-apocalyptic Fallout game with NASA skin. There's nothing wrong with post-apocalyptic Fallout NASA. It just doesn't match the world lore. The world lore is so empty, nobody needs your bases, nobody needs your resources, etc. The quest entanglement makes you a multiverse work 100% differently to how multiverse works in Endgame. Constellation is a faction of explorers that never leaves the house. Starfield is as shallow as a puddle. It's just a popcorn movie. It's got more story than a lot of pure action games got. But it's absolutely not good enough to praise them for it. And if you look at Starfield, technically past features like NPCs having routines which have been removed, so Starfield is just full of dummies that sit on the table and never eating. Okay, let's stop there. Listen, man, I have to take your word for it because despite having been exposed to older Bethesda games due to my older brother's love of Morrowind and Oblivion, I've only played Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Starfield, Skyrim. So all the games that you're citing here as, not having the popcorn flick type of storytelling and being inconsistent and all these things, that's all I'm familiar with. And I also got to be honest with you on another level. The reason why I was so turned off by Bethesda for the longest time throughout my life is because I don't want the deep, nerdy, super specific stuff. Now, I can get why people would like that and would appreciate that, and I mean no disrespect to those people, but for me, I am the fucking mainstream dum-dum that just wants the basic one-page lore story, where I think you're underselling it a little bit. Again, I haven't played those old games, so I can't compare to how much better they were in this regard, but there's a lot happening. There's a lot of environmental storytelling. There's a lot of things you stitch together by all the NPCs you talk with, whether they matter or not to main quest lines and all these things. I feel like you're selling these games a little short, especially in the case of Starfield, the one I've spent the most time with. I feel like Starfield is rich with storytelling. Maybe it's not as in-depth as a game like Morrowind was or something like that. I can't speak to that, but I can tell you, compared to most games, it's pretty deep, and it's I don't know, it's pretty rich. I was pretty captivated by the world and by the storytelling. Again, maybe I'm just a little smaller brain than you, and I'm easily entertained and impressed with simplistic storytelling as long as the world building is convincing or believable. But I don't know, man. I feel like, yeah, it probably was a deliberate move on their part to make these games a little more broad and simplistic and to be a little more dumbed down like this, because they were probably fishing for a more wide stream audience. And hey, guess what? It worked. They fucking got it, because millions and millions and millions of people have played Fallout 4 and Starfield and Elder Scrolls and all these games, or Skyrim, because of its accessibility and how easy it is to just pick up and feel like you're interacting with something that's very rich and deep and lore heavy, while maybe by your standards being a step down from what they used to do back when Bethesda games were a bit more niche and hardcore and nerdy. So again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the old games, but to me, this shit's good, man. I just feel like they're making great shit. I can't speak to the old games, but I can tell you, personally, in my opinion, Starfield is better than Fallout 4, which is better than, maybe better than I don't know if I like it more than Skyrim. I don't know about those two, but in my opinion, from my perspective, which might drive you crazy, Bethesda's gotten better, not worse. I love Starfield. I'm going to defend Starfield. Next up, my mom was right. She says, a company like Xbox would not allow an important part of their corporation to go downhill if they didn't know something. If they're getting rid of large parts of Xbox as a family and seemingly letting the product go downhill, that tells me that they're preparing for a very different future. Why the hell does my mom understand Xbox so well? And finally, our last comment of the week comes from none other than the sexy Maleficent, the Disney character, not Magnificent, Maleficent. This is what happens when you're a Disney adult. This is what happens when you make it to age 29 without a child, but you live 20 minutes from Disney World. You say things like that. Headhunting Halo writes it and says, man, wife and kids are gone for 5 days. What to do? Looks like my right arm is going to get 6 times the size of my left one, and a lot of gaming and pizza. I might even throw a couple of pieces to the dog. LOL, I'm ready. I'm enjoying Hellblade 2 right now. Also picked up Mountain Dew Overdrive, and I gotta say, it ranks number 3 for me. First is regular Mountain Dew, then Code Red, then Overdrive. Pitch Black, you were so close. What is Mountain Dew Overdrive? Did I miss this? Mountain Dew Overdrive, this is the Mountain Dew Wiki. Mountain Dew Overdrive is a franchise-exclusive Mountain Dew flavor available since June of 2022, only at Casey's General Store. Overdrive is a citrus punch, raspberry lime mango flavor Mountain Dew. That's amazing. Okay, well, what the fuck is Casey's General Stores? What the fuck is Dew Iced? Cold Stone Creamery used to have a Mountain Dew drink? Anyway, sorry, I'm going down the fucking Mountain Dew Wiki rabbit hole. I've been so tapped out of Mountain Dew lately because I don't like most of the new flavors, but raspberry lime mango, honestly, I wish they'd take out the mango and just make it raspberry lime. I love the idea of a raspberry lime Mountain Dew, but that does sound good. I don't know what part of the country Casey's is in, but God bless you for having it, because I don't have it, so I don't have the ability to shop here and go and try this Mountain Dew flavor. If you know, DM me if you would like to send me. I'll pay you handsomely if you like to. So what is Casey's? Casey's Pizza, Food, and Grocery Delivery gas stations, Midwest and Southern United States. I'm from the Southern United States, and we do not have Casey's. You can fuck right off. All right. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this week's Xbox On podcast. Headhunting Halo. Enjoy your time off. Don't enjoy it too much, sir. You gotta be somewhat of a responsible adult. Listen, enjoy yourself. Indulge in the things you can't do without your family, but also miss your family a little bit. You know, come on. Don't be. God, you live in my fantasy. With the exclusive Mountain Dews and the pizza. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to the Xbox On podcast. Headhunting Halo, you're a handsome man. You're all beautiful in your own ways, although some of you are probably more attractive than others. Just statistically speaking, that is kind of how that works. But you're all amazing. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the participation. I look forward to seeing what y'all have to say about the topics we discussed this week. And then next week, getting to talk to you about Hellblade 2. If I can never get off Sker Ritual, we will get to that. But that's going to do it. Until next week, be kind. Brush your teeth. Do not let your doctor convince you to get a sleep apnea machine, because it's a fucking scam. I'm convinced of it, even though I haven't had one yet. But be good, brush your teeth, and power your dreams. There we go.